Assalamu alaikum. Welcome all to this webinar, which is being organized by EDC Department of ZABIST. And I'm very happy to have with me Mr. Ali Hasan, who is the head of initiative, sustainability initiative at JS Bank. Uh, Ali is an experienced head of strategy who has demonstrated history of working in the entertainment industry. He is skilled in research management, strategy education, fundamental analysis, financial statement analysis, change and cost management. He has a strong business development base, and he is a highly professionally competent person with a Bachelor of Business Administration from ZABIST and MBA as well as from ZABIST. So he's an alumni of ZABIST, and we welcome you, Ali, over here at the webinar.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Just like to point out, I've done my bachelor's from ZABIST. My master's, yet to pursue master's.
Okay. He has
But
done his bachelor's from ZABIST, BBA
yes,
from ZABIST. Okay. We are waiting for one of our other participants, Mr. Kamran Sani, and he is about to join us. In the meanwhile, I would start this discussion with a very general idea that why do you think that the businesses should be concerned with the concept of sustainability or sustainable development? Why is it that nowadays we are seeing that this sustainability as a concept has become a kind of a buzzword in business? So, Ali, would you throw some light on that?
yes, most definitely. So to answer that question, it's first to understand the impact that it's going to create. We need to understand what the issue is. The issue is not specific to businesses. It's not specific to economies. It's specific to the world. It involves everyone. It is an environmental issue that does not affect a country, a particular people, but the entire inhabitants of this planet. And what we've done over the last 200 years is that we've doomed the planet. And by what we've done is we've created these big infrastructures, machinery, equipment, cement, and using fossil fuels to heat up which has caused the planet to heat up. And to summarize the issue that we've caused, what we have done is we've created 51 billion tons of carbon emissions that we emit globally as a planet in the world. What does that mean? That means that 51 billion tons of carbon equivalent stay within our environment, within the ozone layer, and because the carbon because there's high amounts of carbon in the environment, there is more heating and heat generated when we get sunlight from the sun. It's not like we can dump this carbon emissions into outer space. It stays within our ozone layer, and it is destroying the planet slowly and gradually. What we're seeing is climate. The impacts that we're seeing up till now over the last 50 years. We've monitored temperature increases. We've witnessed an increase of 1.5 degree increase, and with the way humans are progressing, we in the next 30 years, if we do not create any changes in our current behaviors and our current usage of fossil fuels, but we keep our global GDP growth constant, we're going to see the carbon emissions grow by 4 times, which are going to be definitely unsustainable for the planet. That's why that's why most developed countries in the world in 2015 and even before that, but the major impact started in 2015 when the Paris Agreement was created between all the developed countries to go to net zero. It's important to understand the concept of net zero. What we're trying to do is, as a planet, we're trying to reduce the carbon emissions that we created. So we have reason to believe, and we can mitigate the impact of climate change if we all collectively work together. And therefore, businesses have their role to play in
Yeah.
this fight.
Ali, you have just mentioned Paris Agreement, which took place in 2015, and you have
Yeah.
also mentioned that they have put up a kind of a limit that on average we have only 1.5 degree centigrade rise, which could save us from the catastrophe which may unleash by the end of this century, which could devastate the whole planet.
Yes.
So, would you tell us something more with respect to the Paris agreement and this limit which has actually been set?
Okay, so the Paris Agreement is a culmination of all the developed countries in the world, where they recognize the impact of climate change. It's the first time that the world united and established the guidelines and a way forward to
Mhm.
mitigating or reducing the impact that the world has created. The 1.5 degrees of increase the temperature that I was referring to has already somewhat taken place in some
Mhm.
places. What
Mhm.
they anticipate and expect is that the temperature increases will go as high as 2 degrees, 2 to 4 degrees, which are extremely detrimental for countries, especially for countries like Pakistan. So
Mhm.
to elaborate further on that, the issue of climate changes is not going to affect each and every country the same way. It's got to do with geography. Where your country is located will have a
Mhm.
similar different impact. According
Mhm.
to the German index report, climate index report, which is published in 2018, Pakistan stands at number 5, the top fifth country to be affected by climate change because of our geography and our location.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's imperative for countries like Pakistan to work on this.
That's very, I think, pertinent to discuss this further point that global warming or environmental change, it is a global phenomena, and the carbon emission and the environmental pollution or degradation which may be taking place in the countries like in the developed world, which is heavily emitting these carbon emissions, but the impact is going to be on the developed world. So if we are
Yes.
going to put up a kind of curtailment on the carbon emission across, then don't you think that the developed world has already achieved its development by sort of polluting the environment and asking the developing countries like Pakistan, or maybe at a greater level China or India, to cut down on their carbon emission that may hamper their development? So this is going
Yeah.
to be a kind of a disadvantage to these countries. So how do you see that this problem is being actually tackled at the global level?
Okay, that's a very very valid question. So, if just to add some figures to what you said,
Hmm.
uh, Pakistan, being the top 5 countries to be affected by climate change, does not contribute a lot to climate change. Our
Yeah.
global GHG emissions per annum only contribute less than 1%. I believe it's 0.87% of carbon emissions in the global
Mhm.
scheme. Plus, what's more important is that we haven't been contributing to the global house emissions in the past. It's not like
True.
that we were contributing to these emissions in the past and that have reduced our footprint. We
Mhm.
haven't seen that growth, whereas the
Mhm.
developed economies have been able to reap the benefits of fossil fuels. So
Mhm.
and grow their economies, and more importantly, grow wealth of their individuals and create wealthy nations. The
Mhm. True.
so in order, and this is not something that you realize, this is something that the developed countries also realize.
Mhm.
That's why there are institutions such as the institution that JS Bank works with. It's called Green
Mhm.
Climate Fund,
Mhm.
where their main objective and goal is to take financing from these developed economies, from the
Mhm.
wealthy economies, and invest in their least developed and developing economies, because they understand that these poor economies will not be able to afford or implement climate change as the developed economies can. This also entails that there will be harsher rules and regulations being forced on the developed economies as opposed to developing economies.
All right. Here I welcome Mr. Kamran Sani. Welcome to the webinar.
My apologies. My laptop couldn't connect to the webinar. Now I've
No, no,
connected to my
that's
phone.
perfectly fine. I mean, in this Walaikum Salam, in this the age of COVID, we also sometimes face these kind of the problem that's very common. So, welcome.
Yeah, yeah,
I
because
mean,
look, otherwise, everything.
you're not too late. Let me
Thank you very
briefly
much.
introduce Mr. Kamran Sani. He is the CEO of CORPORATTI, and he is a seasoned marketing professional with a successful track record in brand management and advertising. He is well groomed and educated with strong leadership and interpersonal skills with a flair for leading teams to produce outstanding results. He has a keen interest, research interest, and academic interest in the field of sustainability, and he has been associated with various academic institutions as part of their adjunct faculty. He is an assertive and confident person with excellent presentation and communication skills. So I again welcome Kamran Sani Saab.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very
Okay.
gracious of you.
All right, Kamran Sahab, we have briefly discussed with Ali some of the major problems which are being faced by the world. I mean, rather, I would say by the planet due to all of these climate change. So, I would begin with you that if you could generally tell us that why the world be concerned with the global climate change, which is now designated as climate crisis. What is your stay on this? I mean, how severe and serious is the challenge now?
Right. I'll be very honest with you. I cannot be, like, I haven't mastered the topic, the question discussed, but like, yes, we all have been working towards it at corporate level also, on individual basis also. Like, I've been volunteer with the Karachi Karwan, which was heritage building, tagging, and restoring them. So, it's sustainability, and then of course, like tree plantation and all. Fortunately, uh, our youth is not involved in these kind of activities. First, I would say there are very few companies. I would say there are number of you can count them on your fingers. The multinationals and few of the national corporations
Mhm.
would actually sort of like working on corporate sustainability.
Mhm.
Ali, you'll have to sort of like confirm me if I'm saying the right thing or not. But I'll be very honest with you because there's so many factories around us in Karachi. I would also say, like any part of Pakistan, any big city metro. There are factories around us which are emitting fumes, which are uh, hazardous.
Mhm.
Uh, Toxic waste in the ocean, in our seas, in our rivers. Everything is getting polluted, and there is no way that we can gauge the damage they're doing. There's, I don't see any institution or who can sort of like assess as to what kind of damage ABC company, their factories all over
I think there is some technical problem with respect to the connectivity, and the voice is breaking. Kamran Saab, if you could just rejoin us, your voice is breaking over here. Yeah, we will continue. If you could just rejoin in a while, so it we will continue with your answer. ओके। कामना साहब, आप इसको थोड़ा रीजॉइन कीजिए दोबारा इसको।
It was so it was an interesting point. I don't know if the audience can hear me fine, but it was an interesting point raised by Mr. Kamran. He mentioned that there are some companies, there are a lot of factories which are doing unregulated work. Which mean what we mean by that is that there's no baseline or assessment done of the emissions that an organization is creating or impacting. Let me define that further. What does that mean? Like, let's suppose you are a textile manufacturer. And if you're a small scale textile manufacturer or have an embroidery concern, you will most likely do not know the carbon footprint that you're creating. And even if you do, you have a measured amount of carbon footprint that you're creating. Your methodology may be very different from the calculations that are being done by another textile operator, which is a problem in the overall scheme of things. What this is what we call as a baseline assessment, and we sincerely lack that in Pakistan. Masood Saab, I was just building on to something Mr. Kamran had mentioned about the impact being created by local organizations and basically in some cases dispersing toxic or other chemicals within the society, untreated chemicals, which is a huge problem in Pakistan, and it is not Pakistan exclusive. It's a problem for most developing economies. What we need to do is, at a regulatory level, work on methodologies that develop systematic baseline assessments for everyone.
Mhm.
That means that each company, like they report their audited financial statements, where
Mhm.
you have a set of principles against which
Mhm.
you can record
Mhm.
what is revenue, what is expense, what is profit. There are definitions for everything. Similar framework needs to be adopted in this field, just
Mhm.
for us to assess and understand the impact we're creating. We can't solve the problem without knowing what the problem is.
Yeah, exactly. Ali, I would like to know about particularly the initiatives GS Bank is taking, as you had this JS Bank Sustainability Initiative. So tell us
Okay.
some details about those projects. What are their objectives, and what do you want to achieve from such objectives?
Okay, first of all, let me give you some background about JS Bank's initiatives. Our department had initiated in 2017. It was one of the first few sustainable departments within the banking industry. And with that department, the initial objective of the department was to assess and create and assess the footprint being generated by JS Bank as an organization. That means how much paper we're using, how much waste we are creating as by having this organization, JS Bank. But then we realized that there are more important things that we need to work on. We need to measure the footprint that is created by our customers.
Mhm.
So we created this risk rating, an environmental risk rating mechanism where we identified all of our customers and brought them onto a single platform, a rating scale, where we can identify our high risk to environment customers, low risk, and least risk to environment customers. So we were able to map out what the footprint of our customers and their rating profiles are. This is a system that we initiated and then was followed by general, and then we worked with the state bank in issuing the green banking guidelines, and which was a collusive task force being designated by the state bank to work on green banking guidelines, out of which the outcome was that most banks now have the same or a similar ERR profile mechanism in place. So banks now can measure or tell you that they have X number of customers where 10% of those customers have a high impact on society. That would entail your OMCs, oil refineries, and power companies, oil-based, fossil-based oil companies. So they would have a higher rating or riskier to the environment. This is one of the initiatives. Then we worked on JS Bank is one of the few banks which has solarized more than 1/3 of our branches. We take pride in saying in announcing that and keeping that up. Out of 350 branches, I believe we have around 124 or 134 branches that have solar panels installed in them. So we take pride in and we want to continue this movement of reducing our own footprint in any ways that is possible. Then we have worked with WWF in a plantation drive where we donated not only financially but also took active part in participating in that tree plantation drive, because it is very important to create carbon sinks, which is basically planting trees, and therefore trees absorb carbon dioxide.
Okay, Ali, I would.
Yes.
Yeah, if I could just ask a relevant question to your first point, that you also give sort of a rating to the high emitting organization firms, carbon emitting organization firms. So do you give any kind of incentive, or rather I would put it in this way, that what kind of the incentive could you give those who are seeking any financial loans or assistance from your organization if they are more keen to invest in environmental friendly technology or more sustainability oriented projects? So what kind of incentives are given to them as compared to any other customer?
Okay, so as a commercial entity, we cannot. That's one of our limitations, that we cannot favor environmentally friendly customers or give them easier terms than our regular or non-environmentally friendly customers. Now, at the current landscape, we are working on multiple initiatives that will promote financing for renewable energy or energy efficiency customers. Some of the projects that we may we would want to work on is to decarbonize the textile sector. It's famously quoted, I don't know the reference to that each t-shirt weighs about, 300 to 400 liters of water, which can be easily restored because the only thing that you're adding is color in the dyeing process, which can be restored and recovered. And most textile companies, A, lack the initiative, B, lack the financial incentive to invest in those environmentally friendly technologies. So we are trying to develop avenues for investments or making their financial access easier. That is what we can do as a financial institution.
Okay, that's interesting. So it means sustainability. I mean, I have read in multiple sustainability reports that organization consider it as part of a journey, as part of a way of life, as a
Yes.
milestone. It's a continuous journey. So I think that's great that the organizations, especially as you have mentioned, that the banks, they are following the green banking guidelines provided by the state bank, and they are taking this initiative. So there is going to be a response from the customers as well, that they would try to become more and more environmental friendly and invest in energy efficient technologies, which is the way forward to us. So coming back to Kamran Sani Saab, I mean, I feel a bit sorry because of the technical issues. You have not been able to complete your talk. So I would continue with you that please tell us something about some of your initiative which you have taken in the academia with your students with respect to sustainability. Please.
Well, I'll be very honest with you that what I would suggest
I think he's facing some technical problems today. And
Yeah.
okay, Kamsan sir, I'm so sorry. I would request you again if you could rejoin us. Still, things have not sorted out. Okay, Ali, I would continue with you. Uh, Now, environment is one of the aspect of sustainability.
Yes.
And whenever we talk about sustainability, we take it as part of, I mean, there is one metaphor which is used for sustainability that is a kind of a three legs stool. So one of the leg is economic sustainability, another is environment sustainability, and third one is the social sustainability. So how are you going to say that, not in particular with respect to JS Bank only, because I understand you are looking at the sustainable initiative mainly in the environmental side. So,
Yeah.
so how are you going to see that organizations could play a role in the area of social sustainability? And what, if you could also tell us, JS Bank is doing about that?
So first, I'll cover what JS Bank is doing. I think that is
Yeah.
so we've had a multitude of corporate sustainability initiatives that not only fall under ours, but most organizations that are large scale in Pakistan, mid-sized to large scale organizations have a CSR program where we donate to various NGOs and
Hmm.
help towards poverty reduction. But what the overarching picture, now I'll get on to the second part of the question. It is extremely important to understand that the environment, poverty is a part of the environment. It
Hmm.
is not a topic that is set aside from the environment. It is a part of it, and which creates a huge impact as well. For that, we are working with multiple organizations on different kinds of adaptation projects, which affect and influence the lives of the most underpowered or poor people uh, uh, in a society or in a country
Hmm.
or in a region.
Hmm.
So, so for instance, some of the projects that it's important for me to refer to some projects to show you tangible progresses that have been made in this space. One of the projects that we work with is a GCF project, a Green Climate Fund, where we work with them,
Hmm.
which is working on solarizing the population in Mali Islands, which are off the coast of Africa, extremely low income countries,
Hmm.
where they did not have financial access to install renewable energy. So GCF
Hmm.
instigated and installed the solar capacity solutions for them, which will
Mm.
not only provide them with farming with better farming income, but also improve their standard of living.
Sure.
So, and I don't need to elaborate, but if you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and it is
Sure.
poverty is a significant goal. So is gender equality. These are all different goals that talk about a more inclusive global economy.
Mhm.
So
Fine.
all those play a role. Yeah.
True. Okay. Kamran Sani sir, if you could just continue where we had actually left. I do not want to take more time. I want to hear from you. Yes, please. No, I think it's still. All right. No, still there's some technical problem over there. So, Ali,
Yes.
we have more time to discuss some further points with respect to sustainability from your side. Okay, one thing which we have seen that there has been a lot of talk about sustainability over many years. I mean, since 1987, since this our common vision by Brundtland report, which came, which has actually given the definition of sustainable development, that we have not only to take care of present generation with respect to its development, but we have to keep intact the natural resources which may be utilized for our coming generation. And then this adoption of sustainable development by the organization with the concept of corporate sustainability is still we see that we are on the same path. And you also mentioned that 1.5 degrees Celsius centigrade window has almost we have, I mean, reached to that. So
Yeah.
where do you think we are lacking? What are the things which we see that we are not doing, which could actually lead us towards the true path of the sustainability? We need a bigger paradigm shift rather than what is happening. That's
Yes.
what I think is. So where we actually lack, where in what area we need to work more on?
Okay. So at a global level, there are countries like, for instance, Germany, China, well, now the United States, as well, France, which are actually leading these initiatives, and they have
Hmm.
made commitments to go to net zero.
Hmm.
Um, we, on the other hand, have announced INDC. Imran Khan is very vocal about climate change issues. Um,
Hmm.
and we've done made some progress in this game. But as a poor country, as a country with limited financial means, it is not expected from us to do it on a standalone basis. We are working with multiple organizations. The roles that so you know how the change is coming in is that more organizations are realizing the importance of sustainability,
Hmm.
and in the next 10 years, even more organizations will, till the point where all organizations understand and start reporting their baseline issues and start mitigating those issues. We've
Hmm.
already started seeing rewards of being more environmentally efficient in the
Hmm.
textile sector, where they have to
Hmm.
show their.
Hmm.
I'm talking about large sector organizations like
Hmm.
Millennials or these export-oriented organizations, where they have to meet EU standards.
Hmm.
Over the last 3 years, EU has European Union has commenced its operation of using
Hmm.
30% recycled plastics
Hmm.
on all the plastics that any textile
Hmm.
manufacturer brand or any other brand is using within the sector. So
Hmm.
what is going to happen is that the plastic that was perhaps previously going to landfills and site
Hmm.
and thrown as trash will now go into recycling, and this will create a business opportunity. It has to make commercial sense. The
Hmm.
second thing that is happening is that the impact of climate change is are becoming more and more rampant.
True.
Like for instance, Karachi and heat
Yeah.
waves. That's a
Hmm.
not it's not a phenomena that I used to see as a kid. But now, if you look at even this year compared to the last year rains, these are
Yes.
phenomena that are right in front of us, and we cannot hide away from them.
And
So
we keep hearing about these hurricanes and cyclones so
exactly,
frequently all over the
exactly.
world.
Exactly. Pardon my friend, but when push comes to shove is when we act, and nature is telling us. Nature is
Ah,
telling us
yes.
that it's time to start making
Yeah.
changes on how you live, how you do things.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. And furthermore, I mean, if you look at the context of the COVID, I mean, there are no
Yes.
boundaries. Whole human race is now
Words.
suffering from this pandemic. There is no boundary of race, there is no boundary of religion, there is no national boundaries. In the same vein, we have to actually look at the climate change. We have to look at this climate crisis. Then it is going to, yes, it may be the case that developing countries or the poor countries may suffer more, but the kind of the changes this planet is going to go through, nobody can foresee. So it's a collective, I would say, efforts that would only, I mean, avert this catastrophe. And furthermore, we have already entered the Anthropocene geological era. Earlier, I mean, we were in a time period when it used to be the Holocene time period, which has lasted for more than 10,000 years. Anthropocene, we have created the impact on the space. So, on the one hand, our reach has reached, I mean, our reach has touch the space, but on the other hand we are destroying the only habitat which we have as earth. So I would like to ask you that where do you see the general awareness level among the masses with respect masses? I'm not talking about companies as I'm talking about general masses. Do you think that are they really aware that we are at the edge of such an abyss which could lead to us to oblivion? So my question to you is that what is the level of awareness and what we need to do in the academia as well and in the industry level as well to create more and more awareness about such issues?
That, that's an extremely valid question. I I think there is a severe lack of understanding of climate change. Uh, for instance, before joining this role, I did not
Mhm.
know about the environment as I do now. I
Mhm.
had to read a couple of books, and I will really recommend How to Avoid Climate as a Disaster by Bill Gates. It's a very easy introduction to climate change, and
Mhm.
it tells you about how we can solve the issues and what
Mhm.
are the issues that we need to focus on. But understanding the problem is the first thing, and a lot of people do not have me. Well, everybody has the means with the dawn of the internet. Everybody has the means and access
Mhm.
to the information. It's just about whether you realize the importance of doing it.
Mhm.
And this is where educational and institutions should play their role. This field, this sustainable finance, climate change, or climate impact investing, is going to break all records in the next 2 decades. See,
Mhm.
the impacts of the Paris Agreement and the U.S. Climate change policy of going to net zero by 2040. Is that what they
Mhm.
announced a couple of weeks ago with the
Mhm.
Biden administration coming in? These are going to create some paradigm shifts in
Mhm.
terms of financial capital
Mhm.
being going to divert to these avenues. Like for instance, I believe Goldman Sachs announced that they're going to go net zero by 2035,
Mhm.
and so their initiative is going to be followed by Bank of America and all these other organizations. You already have those tech companies which are already working and were
Mhm.
already very aware of
Mhm.
their role, and you
Mhm.
will see this impact start to coming in, and a lot of financial capital start pulling in.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this is going to, what is right now not a very common phenomena, will morph
Mhm.
into an entire field, an
True.
academia field, and a business field.
True.
There has to be capital incentive for it to work, for the world to reach to net
Mm.
zero.
Yeah. One more thing. I mean, if you see that in the reporting systems Financial reporting is one thing. Now the organizations, more and more organizations, they are producing their sustainability reports.
Yes.
And in the sustainability reports, SDGs, they have become a sort of an integral part, where
Yeah.
they show that how they are associating their activities, aligning their activities with the achievement of the sustainable development goals. And within the sustainable development goals, if you go through those sustainable development goals, 17 sustainable development goals, you are
Yes.
going to see that there are certain goals which are specific to the organization. One of them is responsible production, and then the consumers are going to consume their products responsibly. So over the time period, what I see is that without understanding the investment implications on the and on the environment, no organization would be able to legitimize its operations in the society. It's
Yes.
a question of legitimacy as well. So, as you have mentioned, that this field, sustainable finance, specifically since it relates to your area, is going to become mainstream. So, those students, those who are right now studying in BBA program or in MBA program or any other business studies, what advice would you give them, that how they could prepare themselves for such an exciting and I would say expanding career in future?
So within Pakistan, I believe there is at the moment there is limited availability of knowledge for environmental studies. Globally, there are institutions. Obviously, you have the
Mhm.
universities, the large scale global universities that do have environmental sciences as a bachelor's and a master's program. Uh, but for anybody who wants to learn in this field, you have a widely available resources. It is
Mhm.
not, you do not need to understand the specific science of it. You just need to
Mhm.
understand what impact it's going to create and what are the measures that you can take to
Mhm.
reduce the footprint. It's common knowledge to for us to understand that we need to reduce our usage of plastic,
Mhm.
right? It's very common,
Mhm.
and so that is just a latch on of this particular information that is widely available and widely aware. What is
Mhm.
happening is the newer generation, especially like people like Greta Thunberg and this little kid who is creating a huge voice in for
Mhm.
advocating for climate change. You
Yeah.
see these voices, and her book is very impressive.
Mhm.
And and that is the voice that is going to connect with an audience, the internet audience, the youth, the young youth, which can get this information themselves. As institutions, as Zabist,
Mhm.
incorporation of a course particular to environmental sciences is equally
Mhm.
important. And maybe
Mhm.
institutions should already start seeing the impact that can be created by incorporating this as a part of the curriculum, because it will morph into or eventually become a part. So it's about the first who does the first course or
Mhm.
uh, guideline towards producing environmental sciences in Pakistan. It would be interesting to
Mhm.
see that.
So, do you think that right now there are organizations, even in the financial sector, which are creating such kind of positions as you have, as head of sustainability initiatives? So, what is the, I mean, human resource opportunities available in this particular field right now? In future, yes, there are going to be multiple, as you have said, but right now, what is the current situation?
Well, most organizations and MNCs do have their sustainability departments. It's not a
Mhm.
new phenomenon. The scope of what they cover is limited right now. They're just focusing on their footprint and mitigating that. It
Mhm.
doesn't talk on
Mhm.
a larger scale, on a
Mhm.
unified scale. There,
Mhm.
in terms of job opportunities, yes. At the moment, in the financial sector, yes, there are quite a few opportunities, and there is lack of specialists within this space because we
Mhm.
don't have institutions to produce graduates to come
Mhm.
and specifically work on this space.
Mhm.
So the most of the talent that is brought into this space is either studied from abroad, and those are the people who are setting up these departments. Now, more and more departments are setting up I can speak about the financial sector. You need to have a certain scale. So banks are generally large scale, mid to large scale organizations, and therefore they have the financial means to open up this department. I'm not expecting a small private limited company to start thinking about sustainability when they because they don't have the financial means. But for other organizations, large organizations in the country, it won't be very difficult. It's not a far-fetched thought that each of them will have large, sizable sustainable teams in the next 3 to 5 years.
Ali, what we have seen, as you have mentioned, is not as such something new, but traditionally there have been CSR departments, and I would not even call it department. There were certain persons responsible for looking after CSR initiatives. Here now we are talking about sustainability initiatives. So, for the purpose of understanding to our audiences in the general public, how you going to differentiate between these two, CSR initiative and sustainability initiatives?
It's how you wear the hat is the right answer to this. See, CSR approach is more or less the same. When you are a part of an environment where you have to or create change within the society and improvement in the society, that's where the CSR thought process comes from. When you look at the environmental analysis, you are pretty much doing the same thing, except you are wearing a different hat and you're focusing on a larger issue where your carbon and climate change is your most important goal. So whether you help a poor or a marginalized community with access to water, you can classify that as helping people get clean water access, or I can classify that as rejuvenating or improving the lives so that they can focus on other things beyond just about their health and safety needs.
Okay, so I mean this is itself I would say come under the sustainability initiative. If you are providing clean water accessibility to the poor, and even if you are providing some kind of renewable energy like micro wind turbines and the solar panels to the community for development, that's also it is under the sustainability initiative, where we see both environment and the social needs are taken care of. Now, in the context of Pakistan, if we look at the status, you are very well aware that Pakistan has been facing the energy crisis for the last, I would say, at least 2 decades.
Yes.
And that has led to certain initiatives. For example, we have a large wind corridor in Sindh, and we have seen multiple projects coming out at the area of Jhimpir and the surrounding areas. And similarly, in Bahawalpur as well, we have seen there were solar farm solar panels which were generating electricity at larger scale. These were some of the initiatives with respect to renewable energy. However, the energy crisis has been so severe that the major, I would say, initiative which was taken, that was the third coal power plant, the third initiative, but that is based on coal.
Yes.
So how you are going to look at this dilemma of a developing country facing the energy crisis, but the solution lies in those technologies which are not environmentally friendly? So, I mean, what's the way out? That is something of kind of a catch-22 situation.
Exactly. It's not an easy answer. Currently, Pakistan's 46% of, well, we could say simply 50% of GHG emissions comes from your energy requirement. And per capita, our energy consumption is 1/7 of a US or an American citizen. So our energy requirements on a per capita basis is going to quadruple at least in the next 30-40 years. But what does that mean in terms of emissions? Okay. Right now it's 46% because we're heavily reliant on fossil fuels, which are
Mhm.
not right now coal. Coal is not a huge portion. It's mostly fossil crude base. And right now, only 7% to 9% of our energy mix comes from renewable, not counting hydro. Okay,
Mhm.
in the this is our situation right now. How
True.
we get to a point in future is very important. The journey is very important. Okay,
True.
so one of the and we have to realize that as a developing nation with limited means to financial capital, we have to use the resources those are available to us. If I tell you that Germany still relies 30% on coal production
Mhm.
as a means of electricity generation,
Mhm.
you you will be
Yeah.
surprised that yeah, right.
Yes, despite, I mean, Germany being the leading nation in renewable
Yes,
energy and green
yes,
movement, green political parties, all, yeah, okay,
yes.
that's, mm,
Yeah, so that's news to you, right? Because they're always talking about renewable energy, but
yeah,
still 30% of their power comes from
mm,
coal, and
mm,
and they realize that. So they've
mm,
marked out a vision to offset coal in the next 30 years or
mm,
20 years. So they want to dedicate the next 20 years to convert their coal
mm,
consumption to renewable energy, and this is something that we need to do as a country. We need to realize that we have some resources that are to our advantage, such as having coal and current, which is going to give us the financial means and capital to
mm,
develop energy,
mm,
renewable energy sources.
mm,
In terms of the solar capacity, Pakistan's irradiation levels is 1.56 times
mm,
than the global average. That means
mm,
that 56% more
more,
prone because we
true,
get a lot of sunlight, and there's no denying a lot of sunlight in
true,
Pakistan. So,
yeah,
so that's great for this country. So what we can do is we can develop a
mm,
policy where we can
mm,
say that we're going to perhaps use coal for the next 20 or 30 years, but we're going to slowly start reducing their impact, and
mm,
it's going to be priced in such a way. There's another concept of green premiums, which is very important to
mm,
be established, not
mm,
just in uh, not just in your energy requirement, but energy requirement for Pakistan is very important because it generates more than around 50% of your carbon emissions. So
true,
what we can do is we can add a price mechanism to offset or sort of offset the requirement of solar consumption.
true,
So it will be more prudent to install increase the capacity of solar panels in
yeah,
the long term, in the long run,
mm,
but in the short run we can use coal
true.
power.
Ali, but the problem with all of these very good and valid initiatives and suggestion is that it requires a political will at the government level to change
Yeah,
the laws in favor of renewable energy. And it's a global, it's not about Pakistan. Globally, the fossil fuel industry is very much more powerful, entrenched in the decision making level. But that's a continuous journey, and without even I mean, bringing about this change, ultimately we are seeing, and the doomsday scenario pretty soon. So yeah, we had therefore now second last question I'm going to ask you, that is there any collaboration between the financial sector in the context of sustainability initiatives and the government? Are you linked together with some kind of a vision where you are also helping the government to achieve towards these SDGs or overall their sustainability vision? How you are connected with that?
okay. So just to elaborate further, as part of our collaboration with the Green Climate Fund, we work with the Ministry of Climate Change.
Hmm.
And basically, just to give you just to backtrack a little, the Ministry of Climate Change has produced these with the government of Pakistan, and sorry, the Green Climate Fund came up
Hmm.
with this strategic framework in
Hmm.
2015,
Hmm.
13, sorry, which
Hmm.
mapped out what the vision of 2030 and 2050 is going to be for Pakistan. We
Okay.
have to work in relation to that. We can't propose anything that does not fall in the ambit of what the
Hmm.
ministry is trying to do. So
Hmm.
they develop the long-term vision, and we
Hmm.
take a portion of that and we work towards that.
Okay.
So getting there, maybe increasing access to solar financing, is one of the avenues of what the long-term government goal is.
Hmm. Okay, that's great. Okay, Ali, the last question from my side in this. Obviously, we had touched upon a lot of things, but if I ask you to give some common advice, some tips, what as an individual a Pakistani can do to promote sustainability, how we could bring about certain changes in our lifestyle, what should be the change in our mindset with respect to looking at what is happening globally. So, what certain tips, certain suggestions, advices you are going to give?
Um, Technology is going to drive those changes for
Mm-hmm,
everyone, and
mm-hmm,
technologies are already driving those changes. If you look at the
mm-hmm,
solar panels cost have reduced by
mm-hmm,
93% over the last 14 years.
mm-hmm,
Uh, and now it's become accessible. Everybody, I myself included, should think about
mm-hmm,
reducing your own carbon footprint.
mm-hmm,
How we can do that? There are two or three great government initiatives.
mm-hmm,
One of them is a 6% financing on renewable energy. Anybody, it's
mm-hmm.
applicable for anyone. People should think about
Okay,
it. People should go for
okay.
it. Second, second would be to perhaps right now it's not available, but in the next 10 years, you will see electric vehicles as an option. As an individual,
Mm-hmm,
power and commute. These are
mm-hmm,
your two biggest contributions to the environment as an individual with a service oriented job. If you own a factory that produces some, so you can
mm-hmm,
focus on what you can do as an individual. You can reduce, perhaps, you know what they say about reusing those polythene bags. Stop using polythene bags.
mm-hmm.
So these are initiatives that individuals can take. Think about getting an electric car as your next vehicle. So these are the
and
contributions that.
and we must push for more sustainable cities, promote
Yes.
healthy walking. I mean, this has always been my, I would say, most important point with respect to sustainable cities, that we do not encourage footpaths in our cities, where we
Yes.
encourage the people to walk at least for short distances. We need to become more pedestrian friendly cities over here, cycling, and do not call having 3 or 4 cars as status symbol. Develop public transport.
Yeah.
The city of
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
Bogota in Colombia, they have reduced I mean, the usage of the cars. So, as a nation, as an individual, we have to really brought about a lot of changes. The way we look at our consumption of the things, the way we spend our money, the way we live our life, because it's not going to be good for us. It is going to be good for society and good for environment. So, Ali, anything in the last you want to say? I mean, you're welcome to give your last comment for this seminar, what for this webinar.
Just one last event is it's it's for those who are more economically uh, who can afford more things, who are socioeconomically class more affluent. It
Mm-hmm.
is their bigger responsibility to
Mm-hmm.
focus on this. You cannot expect the lower SECC and below to
Mm-hmm.
create the change. It is the
True.
change has to come from those who can afford it and transcend down the economic ladder. So the biggest people, your industrialists, have to create that change, and the rest will follow suit. And the change starts from you. Start
Mm-hmm.
researching on what this field is. Why
Mm-hmm.
is climate change important? That's very important. You can do it. Internet is there. Please Google it.
All right, Ali, thank you very much. And I hope that in future we would remain in contact in promoting the sustainability in academia, as well as overall in corporation society. And also, I also thank Mr. Kamran Sani, though unfortunately, due to some technical issues, he was not able to continue with us. But it has been a wonderful talk with you, Ali, and I'm very happy, very delighted to listen your in-depth answers, and it's a proud moment for all of us as well, being an alumni of SZABIST. You did your BBA from SZABIST, as you mentioned earlier. And with this, I say goodbye to all of our participants, those who have participated, and thank you very much. Thanks all.
Thank you. Thank you.